I don't think any sensible person in the United States would deny that what's happened to black folks in the United States in the course of our history has been anything like optimal. It just wasn't. It obviously wasn't. In fact, much of it was downright heinous and horrible. Some of that continues into today. Certain things that still happen are far less obvious than they were in the past. Things are certainly substantially better than they have been, if you look at history. That doesn't mean we don't have a good deal further to go in our pursuit of making sure that things are equitable in a variety of ways here in the United States. Hello, this is the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt. Today is Monday, the 18th of January of 2021, and it is the celebration of Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And I wanted to... if that's something that you celebrate or think is an important thing, by all means, I think it's a good thing that you're able to take the time to celebrate it. Welcome to those visiting on Rumble, seeing me on, or listening to me on the podcast, or seeing me on YouTube. And I wanted to talk about a subject that I've titled Civil Rights Legacy. There's a problem, and it's an ongoing problem, and it's one that's not going to go away. And I'm just going to tell you that I'm probably going to find myself in disagreement with a lot of folks where this problem is concerned, because I think people are unreasonable and unrealistic in their perspective of it. It's my belief that much of what happened in the 50s, 60s, and 70s did not result in good things when you look at almost all the cases of the various things that happened. The thing of it is this. There were some horrible things happening, and they happened literally from the foundation of the United States and before even to the present day, right? Various bad things happened. And this is no doubt. Black folks were enslaved. They were shipped across the oceans, and many of them died in various horrible circumstances. And when they got where they were going, in some instances, most instances, I would venture to say, things were substantially worse for them than they would have been if they'd have been left in their homelands. And nobody can really deny or dispute that, and I'm not trying to. But I want to point something out here. I agree that slavery needed to end. I agree that segregation needed to end. I agree that people needed to be treated as people and not anything more or less. That includes black people, that includes Indian people, that includes Asian of other types, African, who are currently in Africa, and people everywhere, Europeans, everyone, Icelandic people, Australians. They all need to be treated as people. I agree with that idea, but I have to tell you something. Forcing people to act in certain ways towards other people is not typically a good way to do things, even if you're doing so from a position of the underdog, if you will. So imagine that people who were black folks living in the time of slavery, were treated badly. Well, that's not much to imagine because it happened, right? We can say that pretty directly. But the point of all of that is that what they did was they did everything that they could to find ways not to be treated badly and to leave their slavery and their bad situations in every way that they could. And there were lots of times that they couldn't do that, and that's unfortunate. It would have been nice if all of them could have found freedom without having anything else happen, to be quite frank with you. But the point is, they did what people do. There's literally a term, the Underground Railroad, that talks about people trying to get people out of the South and into the North and away from slavery, right, using what they refer to as the Underground Railroad. The point is this: when people are mistreated, when people are forced into a particular mode of operation, there is a tendency for those people to find ways to go, quote, underground, end of quote. This is something people do. It was true for black Americans, and it's quite frankly just as true for the KKK and others. And let's be clear, I don't support the KKK, and there's a lot of others that I probably don't support as well, right, because of of things that they believe, things like segregation, things like abuse of people of other cultures or other quote racial groups. I don't support that, but the point is that those people are still around. Some of them. I don't know how many. I couldn't answer that. My personal experience indicates that probably the number is not all that great. That having been said, I know they're still out there. And I know that many of them feel like they have to be driven underground. Years ago, I had a friend, and he played at being racist. I really don't believe he was. I think he had problems with certain people who were black, and the result was that he took it out on everybody who was black. You can call that racist if you want, and in a sense, I think you're probably correct to do so, right? But I think in reality, when I saw how he dealt with other people who were black, for the most part, where he talked, quote, talked a good game, he really didn't take it out on them. He really didn't. But that having been said, if he had, you can be pretty sure of one thing. He would not have gone around trumpeting what he felt and how he acted. He would have kept it, as he did, close to his chest and let just a few people that he thought actually could hear him without misbehaving or maybe even behaving properly towards him. He would have kept it to where those people were the only ones who knew how he felt. The point is this. You can sit there all day and you can try and force people to act in appropriate ways. And I'm not inappropriate. I want to make sure you understand. Not in inappropriate ways. In appropriate ways. But the problem is, you're still going to have people. I tell this story. I've told it a number of times. I may have told it in my videos, but it's the story of a little boy. And the little boy is standing up in the backseat of the family car. Well, his mom doesn't know that's going on. She's driving along peacefully, and she looks in her rearview mirror, and she sees little Johnny standing up in the backseat of the car. And she says, "Little Johnny, sit down and put on your seatbelt." And little Johnny dutifully complies, right? And Mama looks back later on, and she sees that little Johnny is in his seatbelt, and she says, "Oh, I'm so happy you're in your seatbelt, little Johnny." And little Johnny says, "I may be sitting down on the outside, but I'm standing up on the inside." Well, the point of this little story is obvious. That you make people do things doesn't change what's going on inside them. Okay? And in fact, it may very well inflame what's going on inside them. It may make them more interested in finding ways to do things to get back at people who force them into the particular modes of operation in which they find themselves having to operate, in which they find themselves having to work, right? So the problem is, and this is what I feel is the problem, by the way. Well, the problem is then that you've got people out there who feel that they're required to act in certain ways, even though the things that they're required to do are not things that they would naturally do, and they're not things with which they would agree. So the point of this is that what we did in the civil rights era is what's been done any number of times before. It is to force people into given modes of doing things, given ways of doing things. And the problem is that a lot of those folks continue to believe the things that they believe, wrong or right, good or bad, and those hang out in those people. And I can name some people. I could name some people. I'm not going to do that. But I could name some people who live in those places. And they're people you would not expect. I just want you to know that. Some of these people are people you'd go, that person thinks this? And you'd never know that that's what's going on inside their minds. But it is. And that is one example of that is particularly with regard to people, black people, right? Certain people have some really odd attitudes with regard to black people, and you'd look at the people in question, and you'd go, that person doesn't feel that way, but they do. And they may not come right out and express it, and they may not follow through on what they believe because they know that they would be outed if they did in what they believe, but it doesn't mean that they don't believe what they believe nonetheless. And what I'm saying with regards to what happened in the civil rights struggle, the conflict, whatever you want to call it, is that I recognize why the people who did what they did what they did. But at the same time, I really question the value of forcing people into doing things. And as much as I hate to say it, I really think that what needs to happen most of the time is you need to just steadily keep moving forward in the direction that you want to move, and that over the course of time, things sort of normalize, sort of become normal. Now, that doesn't mean that every once in a while you don't push a little bit, but you have to be pretty careful about how you do that. All right, I'm about out of time for the day. Again, it is the 18th of January of 2021, and it is a Monday. It is the celebration of the birth of Martin Luther King Jr. I'm not sure that it's his actual birthday, but I'm sure it's close because that's usually how that works. But I wanted to, say to those who are celebrating that, I hope you enjoy your celebration today. For those who are off, I hope you enjoy the off time one way or another. And again, I don't have a problem with why people did what they did in the civil rights era, but I do have a problem with the potential results that may have come as a result. But I wanted to go ahead and just kind of get that out there today. All right, so you probably are starting your week. If you're not, you'll start your week tomorrow because of the quote, holiday, which I'm not sure everybody gets, which is why I quote it. But hopefully you'll have a good day. And hopefully your week will be a good one, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video is recorded on Monday, the 18th of January of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S. .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.